Good afternoon. The Committee on Education is now in order. Today's date is February the 1st. It's approximately 2 o'clock p.m. And we are in conference room 309 and locations from across the island via Zoom. This is the first official hearing that we're having this year. I'm excited about the opportunity. I think there's a lot of great proposals that will yield with minimal disruption, great results for our kids. So very excited to get started. A couple of housekeeping things. First, if you notice, just for the edification of the public, that there were two bills that we struck off of the hearing notice, HB 1510 and 1511. That's simply just because that those two bills were re-referred. So it will go from a triple referral, which is basically 3 consecutive committees, to a joint double, which means it will be heard potentially in 2 separate hearings as opposed to 3. That is why that change is reflected on our amended hearing notice. Besides that, a couple of housekeeping measures. We will adhere to a 2-minute time limit. So that's to allow everyone time to share their thoughts. And now we will have Vice Chair Capella give other housekeeping measures.
Please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the technical staff only. Please use the chat only for technical issues. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note that the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of a network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision-making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please avoid using any trademarked or copyrighted images in your virtual backgrounds. Please refrain from any profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Okay, so first up we have is HB 1560 regarding the Board of Education and membership qualifications. On our testifiers list, we have White Kids Can providing testimony and support. Mr. Miyashiro.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Hawaii Kids Can strongly supports HB 1560. The Hawaii Board of Education is an incredibly important policymaking body and is the only board of education in the state. I want to commend the great folks serving on the board. This is often a thankless job, and the last few years have had especially long hours with emotionally fraught testimony and issues. However, I believe there is a tremendous opportunity for the board to be better equipped to guide our education system into 2022 and well beyond. Hawaii is facing an existential crisis as we continue to lose population and many of our bright young people to the mainland. School and learning cannot look the way it has been for the past 100 years, and our students need an education system that reflects this complex reality. More than ever, the traditional silos of K-12, higher education, and the workforce must come down. The margin of error continues to get smaller for our kids to graduate with the skills needed to survive and thrive in Hawaii. That is why it's so vital we have representation on the board of folks who can bring a cross-sector perspective of learning and pathways. Unfortunately, these perspectives and backgrounds have been few and far between on the Board of Ed. How powerful would it be to have a leader from our local tech sector on the board who can advise the Department of Education on its computer science rollout, how to help kids prepare for careers in lucrative IT and cybersecurity pathways, and how to leverage the power of distance learning and technology long after the pandemic is over. HB 1560 finally creates a measure of accountability for our Board of Education to reflect this diversity of thought and expertise that will ultimately benefit our kids and state. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Miyashiro. Next, we have Chelsea Pang, individual testifying in support. She is not present. We also have 3 more individuals, all providing testimony, 2 in support, 1 providing comments. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to HB 1697 relating to sexual health education. First up on our testifiers list, we have the Department of Education providing testimony supporting the intent. Superintendent Hayashi.
Oh, hi, good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. I am Heidi Armstrong from the Office of Student Support Services, testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony supporting the intent of HB 1697, and we offer comments for consideration. The department does welcome a comprehensive professional development for teachers and educational officers on topics that includes positive and accurate representations of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer questioning, intersex, asexual, and other sexual orientations and gender identities, and persons of color to destigmatize and promote sexual health. This comprehensive training would need to have a funding appropriation. The department does have a working group and wonderful advocates and community partners that can assist with the training or the content of the training. We have data from the 2018 School Health Profile Survey, which is a survey that is given every even-numbered year early in the spring semester in our public secondary schools and charter schools. And this data shows that 71.7% of our public secondary schools included gender roles, gender identity, or gender expression as a sexual health topic in a required high school course. So we want to continue to support this effort to reach 100% of our secondary schools. So we thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have the Department of Health providing testimony in support. DOH present? Not present? Not present. Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to State Council on Developmental Disabilities providing testimony and support.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson and committee members. My name is Dane Bartolis. I'm the Executive Administrator for the Hawaii State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Hawaii has evidence of need for better training, education, and services, as well as awareness of sexuality and healthy relationships for youth and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, known as IDD. A coordinated system of services of collaborative partners will help to ensure that youth and adults with IDD receive the support they need to have healthy sexual and safe relationships with others. The Hawaii State Council on Developmental Disabilities is committed to including this need for youth and adults within our 5-year state plan. As stated in our testimony, individuals with IDD who have autism are 7 times more likely to be part of the LGBTQIA+ community. For these reasons, the Council respectfully asks the following amendment for your consideration to include individuals with IDD in this measure. On page 3, line 3 of color communities, we ask that you insert as well as disability communities to destigmatize and promote sexual health. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, Chair Gulick, providing testimony in support. Not here. Next, we have Hawaii Youth Services Network providing testimony in support.
Hi, aloha, I'm Judith Clark, Executive Director of Hawaii Youth Services Network, a statewide coalition of youth serving organizations. We strongly support this bill. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning youth, and youth from people of color communities need and deserve to learn in settings that are inclusive of their experiences and give them the education necessary to stay safe and healthy. In order to provide high quality sexual health education, it is critical to have teachers and facilitators who are highly trained and comfortable presenting the subject matter. Hawaii's DOE teachers have not had adequate access to the professional development they need for competency in this area. At the 2021 Hawaii Children and Youth Summit, this training for teachers for inclusivity for gay, LGBTQ, and people of color communities was the top priority that the youth selected. In implementing the provisions of this bill will help our youth grow up safe, healthy, and ready to succeed by reducing the risks of unplanned pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. We strongly urge the legislature to listen to the voice of Hawaii's youth and pass this bill. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Director Clark. Next, we have testimony from Lima Intermediate School, GSA students providing testimony and support.
Aloha, Chair Woodson and Vice Chair Capella. My name is Sarah Milian-Falafin, and it's an honor to address your committee today. I'm coming to you from Lima Intermediate in Eva Beach. We were really excited to see this bill on the docket. If you know, my students have worked for 3 years on period poverty in legislation. And through that work with period poverty, we've learned about a lot of the stigmas and shame that students get in their sexual education. And it's something that we really want to address. When my students are asked, hey, what's next for what project are you going to work on? Yes, inclusive sex ed was the topic they were interested in. So one thing I think about this bill, and I'd love to see more students involved, we have to get better at asking our students what they want from their education. Students are not a passive getter of education. They also should be active in the process. I sponsor a Gender Sexuality Alliance Club, or a GSA. These are clubs where LGBTQ+ students can come and have community on campus. It's often the first place that they have chosen family to work with. So we work on fighting bullying on campus and making everybody more accepting in general in a campus environment. And I could not find any training to be a GSA sponsor in the Hydro system. I've looked through the PD3 system where we find professional development, and I could not find any classes about how to support LGBTQ+ youth, to the point that I actually elected to teach many on my own. So I've taught about 65 Hydro teachers how to start GSAs and get one going on their campus. The other piece, and I know this is super uncomfortable when we start talking about students and sexuality, but do you know the #1 place that students learn about sexuality from right now? It's porn. So right now, when we think about how our students, especially when we passed out devices last year.
For LGBTQ training, we do training.
I'm sorry? Oh.
I think that's an issue on our side. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so sorry, but just the idea of when it comes down to, I'm sorry, I lost my space. The training that's offered, but students are learning about sexuality from porn. So especially if you're a student who's LGBTQ, if you search "Am I gay?" you're suddenly exposed to a ridiculous amount of really graphic images, and you're not actually getting able to learn about your body. You're learning about it through a sexually based system, and that's not where our students should get to know how to take care of their own bodies. The other thing is we have to be honest about that conversation. It's a super awkward parent-teacher conversation when the kids search a term on the system and the computers.
You can wrap up your testimony, please. We want to make sure that we adhere to the 2-minute timeline.
Thank you so very much for your time, and look forward to seeing this bill move forward.
Thank you so much for your participation. Next, we have the American Academy of Pediatrics Hawaii chapter, Dr. Chang providing testimony in support. Not present. Thank you so much. Next, we have the Hawaii Federation of Republican Women, testimony in opposition. Not present. Next, we have the Hawaii Association of School Psychologists, providing testimony in support. Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates, providing testimony in support. Pono Hawaii Initiative, providing testimony in support. Pacific Survivor Center, providing testimony in support. Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, providing testimony in support. Asses High School, GSA, providing testimony in support. And we have several pages, approximately 70+ individuals providing testimony split between support and opposition. Is anyone here wanting to provide testimony via Zoom? Please go ahead and speak now.
This is Nicole Wu from Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, and you did mention our written testimony. I just wanted to emphasize and stand on our testimony in support, reflecting what the teacher and Judith just testified. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Okay. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony on this bill HB 1697? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? I have a quick question for the Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson.
Thank you so much, A.S. Armstrong. And so your testimony suggests that you are, in essence, in support of the proposal. You want a reinstatement of your base budget that was taken out due to COVID concerns and overall contraction of the budget. But in addition to that, you also want appropriation language so that there will be more money to specifically address this issue. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And so you don't believe that you have sufficient resources to take on this initiative now, if we are just able to restore the base budget?
We are requesting additional funding. We do know that we would need to pull teachers from their classroom, which would require substitutes. There are other ways to train the teachers with stipends, etc. But we are asking for an additional funding appropriation for this comprehensive training.
Yeah, I don't see a dollar amount. Do you have a dollar amount as to what you think it would cost?
I don't right now, but I can certainly get that to you.
If you please can. Okay, Representative Quinlan.
Yeah, I had a couple questions for DOE, and please forgive my ignorance, but what grade level do we currently start sex education in?
At the end, in grade 5, in the sexual, in the standards, puberty education starts. So sexual education would start at grade 5.
And at what point in the curriculum do we start to talk about sexual orientation? Or what year? Or does that start in grade 5?
It's typically in the middle school health curriculum.
And so I guess my question is, in your view, and I know this can just be your opinion, I'm not going to hold you to it, but do you feel that in our current curriculum that we do not have positive representations of LGBTQIA individuals, or just in general?
I don't know if I want to say we don't have positive representation, but we do want to ensure that the curriculum does promote accurate representations. Some of the curriculums, if they're older curriculums, might not even have this representation. And so we do want to ensure that the lesbian, gay, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, etc., transgender are included in our curriculums, as well as included with accurate representations.
So right now, we may not be including the entire spectrum, although we may touch on different areas. Is that what you're saying?
We correct, and we would need to look into the specific curriculums to get into the details of which curriculum offers what, but we do know that we want to move toward 100% of our curriculums, including these topics that we're discussing.
To your knowledge, is sex education in 9th grade and over substantially different from 8th grade and under? Is there, or I mean, is there a point where you're like, okay, you know, we get into slightly more adult topics and this grade level is sort of the tipping point for that?
It is. We do want to use age appropriate language and age appropriate content. But we do know that, and I think it's a matter of how the information is presented, not if it's presented or not, but how do we present it that's appropriate for the particular age level that we're working with.
And last question, and I'm not really sure exactly how to phrase this, and in fact, I'm not sure you may be able to speak to this, but there is a line in the bill about persons of color as well. Is there a, I don't even know how to phrase this, is there a difference between how we would teach sex ed to persons of color versus persons of less color?
I don't think it's a difference in teaching it, but I think there are some stigmatizations that persons of color with sexually transmitted diseases or other diseases that are inaccurately portrayed. And we just want to make sure that all that our information is accurate and that we honor all persons regardless of their sexuality and color.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Quinlan. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the next bill, we have HB 1799, the Department of Education, optional asthma coursework. First up, we have is the Department of Education providing comments. DOE not present. Next, we have the Department of Health supporting the intent. Not present. Next, we have Hawaii Primary Care Association providing testimony and support. We have the American Academy of Pediatrics providing testimony and support. Hawaii Medical Association, HMA, providing testimony and support. Hawaii Association of School Psychologists providing testimony and support. Hawaii Lung Association in Hawaii, American Lung Association in Hawaii providing testimony and support.
Aloha, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. I'm Pedro Haro, the Executive Director of the American Lung Association. You have my written testimony, and I appreciate the opportunity to just add a few more comments. The Centers for Disease Control recommends that school provide these kind of trainings to teachers, parents, and students that are part of this bill as part of its asthma-friendly schools program, which this bill would assist in creating. I also wanted to mention that the American Lung Association is standing by to assist DOE to be able to implement such programs. We currently have free education training that is completely done online for teachers if this bill were to pass forward. And finally, I wanted to point out that to our 1-800-LUNG-USA line, we have received several calls from teachers who wanted assistance in being able to help manage their students' asthma. Particularly during the age of COVID, we saw this rise. This was the reason because when a child is coughing in a classroom, they want to be able to have all tools available, in having children with managed asthma is the best way that they can have a healthy classroom. So we're very delighted to have been able to work with DOE. What we're looking for in this bill is to have a uniform policy across schools, regardless of what school you attend. Thank you, and I'll be available for questions.
Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks. Ms. Wu providing testimony and support.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks, advocates for Hawaii's children and families, especially their education and their health. So we certainly stand on our testimony supporting this bill, which will move us closer towards asthma-free schools and allow students who do have asthma to thrive in their school environments. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have Aloha Care providing testimony and support. Not present. Next, we have about 4 individuals all providing testimony and support. Is there anyone else here wishing to provide testimony on this proposal?
Chair
Yes,
Woodson.
Armstrong, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much. Again, we support our written testimony, and I'd just like to highlight that the department does have systems in place to support students with chronic health conditions such as asthma. Upon notification of a student with a chronic health condition, a team is formed with the student's parent or legal guardian. We have the Hawaii State Department of Public Health nurse and all appropriate school staff form a team to develop an emergency action plan that's individualized to the student's needs during the school day. And this emergency action plan is reviewed annually and is needed. If this bill does move forward, we do have some recommended changes listed in our testimony to better align with the intent of offering an intervention to students with asthma. And I would agree with the previous testimony regarding the support from the American Lung Association. They have been a great partner. And just in November, we did have 3 different trainings for our school health assistants. That was the main audience. But we had over half of our total number of school health assistants and some principals and counselors attending the asthma training sponsored by the American Lung Association. So we're very appreciative of that partnership. And thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much for being here. That's all we have on our testifiers list. Members, are there any questions? Quick question for the department. Thank you again for being here. So your testimony says that these courses may be provided and coordinated through public and private sector entities. Can you explain further what you meant by that?
We have organizations such as the American Lung Association that does have training on asthma. We do want to ensure that our school staff, as appropriate, have this information, and we do the specific training for a specific student with asthma through that emergency action plan. So that is very tailored to the particular needs of a particular student. But then we also offer the emergency rescue medication training in general to all of our school health assistants. They all do have that training, and we're continuing to partner with our other agencies for anyone who is interested in training, such as the asthma training, to participate. So we're trying to get as many options as possible, but for students with asthma, their school team is specifically trained on that child's individual needs.
All right, thank you so much. Members, any other questions? Seeing none, moving on to the next bill, HB 1683, regarding the Department of Education and Civics. First up we have is Department of Education providing comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. I am Terry Ushijima, Interim Assistant Superintendent with the Department of Education, testifying on behalf of Interim Superintendent Keith Hayashi and the department. We stand on our written testimony and respectfully offer comments on HB 1683. The Hawaii Core Standards in Social Studies provides for the development of robust civic content, processes, skills, and dispositions in all public K-12 schools and includes the content suggested in this bill. The specific content in this bill is introduced in the elementary grades, built upon in middle grades, and is deeply investigated in the high school course of participation in democracy, as well as in U.S. history. Additionally, want to note that the naturalization test does not measure civic responsibility, dispositions, or commitment to lifelong civic engagement. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on HB 1683.
Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have the Commission to Promote Advanced Civic Education, PACE Commission, providing testimony supporting the intent. We have Chief Judge Ganoza.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Capella, members of the committee. Good afternoon to all of you. It's really an honor to be here to testify on behalf of the PACE Commission. It's our first opportunity to comment on legislation. The commission was formed in January of last year by the Hawaii Supreme Court. We began meeting in April, and we meet monthly. So it's we're really kind of getting underway as we speak. With regards to this legislation, we absolutely support the intent of seeking to increase civic engagement and civic education for our students across the state. But we do defer to the DOE because we understood that or had learned that the items in this particular bill were part of the curriculum. And I think it's particularly in, as I understand it, the participation in democracy courses that are offered through the department. With regards to the request that PACE participate in developing curriculum, we stand ready and to participate and provide whatever assistance we can and input. I wanted to recognize in our testimony, though, that we're made up of a wide variety of folks, members, and I indicated who are the appointing authorities for the PACE Commission. And a handful of our appointees definitely have educational backgrounds. Developing curriculum is something that I think we're going to have to take up further as we get further into our development as a commission. But we absolutely appreciate this committee's support of civic education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you for the rearticulation of your written testimony. Next, we have Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii providing testimony in support. We also have Common Cause Hawaii providing testimony in support. And we have about a little shy of a dozen individuals all providing testimony in support. Is there anyone here wishing to provide testimony on this particular proposal? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none, moving on to the next bill, HB 1775 relating to civil rights. First up on our testifiers list we have is the Department of Education providing testimony supporting the intent.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Capello, and members of the committee. Sean Bacon, Interim Assistant Superintendent of the Office of Talent Management, testifying on behalf of Superintendent Hayashi and the Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony and is offering comments for House Bill 1775. The department supports the legislature's intent and efforts to ensure that all reports of sexual harassment are appropriately addressed. The bill proposes that a written policy to address complaints covered under the proposed legislation shall include definitions necessary to interpret and apply the policy. The proposed definitions vary from those found in the applicable rules and policies under Chapter 19 and 89 to address non-Title IX allegations. An interim procedure would need to be implemented until Chapter 19 and 89 could be revised to reflect the proposed new definitions. We thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, A.S. Bacon. Next, we have the AG's office providing comments.
Good afternoon, Lauren Tanigawa, Deputy Attorney General. The department submitted written comments which we appreciate the committee's consideration of, and I'm available should there be any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have the University of Hawaii providing testimony supporting the intent.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. I'm Jennifer Rose, and I'm speaking on behalf of Vice President Gouveia for the University of Hawaii Office of Institutional Equity. I would want to first say, I want to commend the Women's Legislative Caucus for the incredible body of work that they have done, particularly in the area of Title IX and gender equity. And it goes without saying that in this 50th anniversary, that this being one of their package bills is, I'm sure, a very important one for them. And I think in terms of our working relationship with the Women's Legislative Caucus, it has been very strong over the years. We've been working for the last 8 years in partnership on a number of bills that would improve policy, program, best practices as it relates to increasing campus safety, and particularly towards Patsy's vision of gender equity. We support the intent of this bill, and we offered some comments. One of the things I just wanted to lift up was that in terms of actually having policy definitions specifically within the state law, it becomes really challenging because we review our policies every year and definitions change. Sometimes they evolve. As an example, for sexual exploitation, it ends up being sort of an umbrella of different kinds of behaviors, and behaviors may change, and the definitions of those, particularly as they are understood by young, first year freshmen, change over time. As another example, when we did focus groups for our climate survey, students from all over our various campuses, community colleges, and the four-year universities had very much different definitions of domestic violence, intimate partner abuse, and dating violence. So that would be a caution, and perhaps the better route is to have a set of standards of what policies should reflect as national best practices. And that is actually reflected in previous state law through Act 222, Session Laws 2015. And we have been talking with the caucus and specifically Representative Ichiyama about these issues. And we look forward to continuing to fine tune the language of this bill in partnership as we have for the last 8 years. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we stand on our written testimony. I'm available for questions, and I will stay for the duration of the hearing.
Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have the Charter School Commission providing testimony in support. Director Lau.
Thank you, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Capella, and members of the committee. We offer our testimony in support of HB 1775. although we do point out a couple of issues that we see with the bill. We ask for consideration regarding the operational capacity issues for our schools, so that should this bill move forward, they can meet the intent of this bill. Title IX is really important to all of us and especially to our schools, and we want to make sure we can do that for our schools. It's really a difference between how the department is able to support these requirements and activities and training and compliance monitoring and things like that. But I will say that our schools independently, many of them are very small. And when they face issues regarding discrimination or things like that, they really rely on the Department of the Attorney General as, for advice and how to handle these things. So our schools generally do not have like the department, an office that can assist them. Right now, we don't have training. We don't have access to that training. And we also don't have Title IX coordinators for our schools. So just some consideration of that. And we look forward and absolutely want to work with this committee along with the department to move this forward. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Director, for being here. Next, we have Hawaii Civil Rights Commission providing testimony and support.
Yes, start my video, sorry. Yes, Robin Wurtzel for the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission. Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Capella, members of the Committee on Education. Civil Rights Commission stands on its written testimony in support of House Bill Senate 1775. I am available for questions. Nothing else.
Thank you for being here. Next, we have the Rainbow Family 808 providing testimony and support. We have the Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii providing testimony and support. We have AAUW of Hawaii providing testimony and support.
Aloha, Chair Usen and Vice Chair Capella and members of Education Committee. My name is Younghee Overly, and I'm the Public Policy Chair for AAUW of Hawaii. I'm also representing Hawaii Women's Coalition today at this hearing. So you got two testimonies in one. We are extremely excited to be able to testify in strong support for this bill. It's finally here. So thank you for hearing this bill, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have on my written testimony.
Thank you. Next, we have the Hawaii Women's Coalition providing testimony in support.
Here there was me.
Oh, that's correct. Thank you so much. Next, we have Americans for Democratic Action providing testimony in support. Hawaii Associations of School Psychologists providing testimony in support. Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates providing testimony and support. Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks providing testimony and support. And we have a little north of a dozen individuals all providing testimony and support. Is there anyone here wishing to provide testimony for this particular measure?
Aloha, I'd like to give some testimony.
Please go ahead, state your name and your affiliate.
Certainly. I'm Linda Elinto. I'm a community constituent, and I do support this particular bill, but I offer comments. I wanted to support the comments that were made by the charter school Director Lau and or executive director, because my concern is the funding, especially when it comes to discrimination of any sort. I believe the charter schools are unfairly left out when it comes to either training or funding for any type of protection for students. But also to reference a bill that was introduced last year, House Bill 1101, because of the additional Chapter 3 that this particular bill addresses, the 386D. It's specific for education. I wanted to also bring to your attention that 368-1.5 does give the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission jurisdiction over a student's complaint who has a disability if they feel like they were discriminated against due to their disability, unless it has to do with their an actual complaint of a denial of a free appropriate public education. So what I'm asking is that this particular bill consider the fact that education programs and activities that the discrimination prohibited should also specifically include no student in the state on the basis of disability, not just only pertain to the provisions that are listed in this particular bill. If you have any questions, you're welcome to get back to me, or I will give you a call. I know Representative Woodson, I did send an email unrelated, so you have my contact information. I'd be glad to provide more information. Thank you very much for your giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here today. We greatly appreciate it. Are there any other testifiers that would like to offer testimony at this time? See none. Members, any questions? Quick question for the Charter School Commission. Director Lau, I have misplaced your testimony, but I believe that you are requesting a position for a Title I compliancy officer or something to that magnitude.
Title IX compliance.
Title IX.
Yeah, I believe a few years ago when the legislature passed the bill, they did allocate funding for Title IX coordinators for, I believe, every complex area in the department. But the charter schools did not have that included. So, but we're required to also follow that law. So with these additional things in this bill, I think we need to provide our charter schools with some kind of support to be sure that they meet the requirements as well. And we know that it's really important that we do that. So any consideration for that, I think would really help.
Okay, I understand. Thank you so much. Remember, any other questions? Representative, go ahead.
Just following up on Ms. Lau's comment, can this bill be amended to allow for what you just requested? Or
is that a question for me? Yes, it can.
Okay. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, quick recess for DM. Okay, thank you. Reconvening for decision-making on several proposals considered today. I will take some of these proposals out of order. Members, I am going to consider HB 1697 and HB 1683 at the end of the agenda. First up, we have HB 1560, Board of Education membership attributes. I would like to propose a HD1 first, members on page 4, section 2, paragraph 4, found on lines 11 and 12. I would like to change the language to say that the nominee shall have relevant experience so that collectively the board has knowledge, experience, and proven expertise. And that is just to keep the verbiage consistent throughout the proposal. Besides that, defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on House Bill 1560, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendment. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Bellotti?
Aye.
Representative Clark?
Aye.
Representative Ganadin?
Aye.
Representative Gates?
Aye.
Representative Hashimoto?
Aye.
Representative Ono?
Aye.
Representative Quinlan?
Aye.
Representative Takayama?
Aye.
Representative Yamane?
Aye.
Representative Okimoto? Aye. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 1799, Department of Education and Optional Asthma Training. I'd like to offer HD1 on page 2, section 2, line 19, changing the shall to a may. And then so it would read, so may offer optional self-management instruction to students with asthma. That's also per DOE's recommendation. Similarly, so throughout the bill, change the word courses to instruction. Besides that, defecting the effective date to July 1st, 2050. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on House Bill 1799, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. No excused absences. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 1775 relating to civil rights enforcement. Per the merits of this bill, I think it would be a benefit to the Department of Education and other entities. There's quite a bit of legal jargon in this proposal. And so we're going to ask if the Committee on Judiciary decides to consider it, that they look at it through that particular prism. Besides that, I would like to accept the AG's recommendation to explicitly state that the legislature sees this as an issue of statewide concern. And so we will incorporate that either in the preamble or in a separate part. Also, per the Charter School Commission's recommendation, I'd like to add an appropriation line for a Title IX position to again be housed within the Department of the Charter School Commission. Actually, technical non-substantive changes and defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on House Bill 1775, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Members, are there any reservations? Any noes? Reservations for Representative Okimoto. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Going back now to HB 1683, Civics Education and Department of Education. Members, as it relates specifically to this particular proposal, the PACE Commission, which was referenced in the document, they gently suggested that they will defer to the Department of Education. The Department of Education respectfully believes that is not needed at this time. And so we will defer this measure. Lastly, moving on to HB 1697, Department of Education and Sexual Health Education. Members, I would like to move this with the HT1. We don't always agree on all the issues, but part of the beauty and frustration about democracy is that we can agree to consider other viewpoints. And so with that spirit in mind, I would like to push this through with a HT1. Simply defecting the effective date to July 1st, 2050. I also would like to incorporate the developmental disabilities recommendation to add the disability community to encompass throughout this proposal. We will make that change as well. Technical non-substantive changes. Members, questions, comments? Chair Quinlan.
Just a few comments. I think that the intent of this measure is a really good one. I think that we absolutely have to show as much support to our LGBT youth as possible. And I know that it is a very fraught time, childhood in general, whether or not you are LGBT. I do have concerns about this bill. I have concerns about funding. I have concerns about staffing, given our current staffing levels. I don't know that the current program is necessarily not a good one and needs to be changed. And I would prefer that the BOE work together with the administration to effectuate any changes that might need to be made to the program. So at this time, with regrets, I will be voting no.
Thank you, Chair. Members, any questions, comments?
Chair, this is Rep. Gates.
Go ahead.
Hi, just wanted to let you know that I will be voting with reservations. I've been receiving concerns from constituents in my district regarding materials and so forth being distributed in our DOE system regarding sexual education. And for that reason, I will be voting with reservations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions, comments, concerns? All right.
Sure.
Vice Chair, go ahead.
I would like to say thank you to the teacher and the students who have put this measure forward. This is a Keiki Caucus proposal, and I know that this was the #1 requested thing that came from students. And I think that it's really important that we lift our students up. So thank you, Chair, for moving this forward.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other questions, comments, concerns? members? Okay, thank you so much. Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on House Bill 1697, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. I have reservations from Representative Gates, no vote from Representative Quinlan. Members, are there any other reservations? Any other noes? Representative Okimoto, no vote. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Adjourned.